So, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. We're excited, you're excited, everyone's excited. It is phenomenal looking. I
Oh, you bet it is.
I can't believe it. I mean, so go before okay, so you've been looking at the trailer a lot
Mm.
whilst I've been like editing a bunch of stuff. Uh so you're gonna be able to do a fairly decent analysis and stuff. But
Mm.
like prior to the announcement, did you think we were gonna get Symbiote Spidey, or did you
Oh,
think it was just gonna
absolutely.
be, yeah,
Absolutely. Like there's no way. First, it's not the first time they've done it before, so it makes sense. They have a lot of inspiration to draw from.
yeah,
So like, and just makes the most sense that we get to see it at least for a little bit. As for the way in which they'll handle it, it's gonna be interesting to see, I guess, the degree of control and like whether it persists throughout the entire story or throughout the entire story after a certain point, or if it's going to be very temporary. That's gonna be interesting to see how exactly they handle it, depending on how they take the story direction. But yeah, they're absolutely going to make the most of it for the time that it's there, and it's gonna be a great time.
yeah. I mean, it looks insane. Like,
Mm.
there's that
It
one section where he just from a very long distance swings this guy into two houses and then kicks
oh
him in the
yeah.
bollocks like 50 times. It's insane.
That was one of the most impressive things. It's such a cool because like the web throwing and everything was like a more basic feature in the original one, but they found a way of really like adding to it and just really being able to use it to make to switch up the flow of combat in with much more just add so much more to it, making it so that it works with the environment, and so that there's a lot, so that it's not just a single motion that's repeated constantly. Because you can see the way that he stumbles along in the area that he could do it, and it's just really cool. It's really impressive me. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna get this, but for story beats, something that I think would be really cool would be if you're doing something that like is morally questionable, and
Mm.
then like it takes control out of you, like you're trying to play and trying to steer away from something, and it forces
Mm.
you to do something else like whilst you're playing would be really interesting. I don't know how they would be like, I don't know what the scenario would be. I don't know how they would have to implement it to work
Hmm.
as effectively, because there are going to be some people who would be like, yeah, no, screw it, I'll just attack these people, why not, that sounds fun. But like, like, it would be really interesting as a
Oh,
concept to
definitely.
take away your control and actually make you become the symbiote, as opposed to
Hmm.
just Spider-Man. I hope that's a route they go down. um
It would be really cool, especially because thankfully, we also have like Miles to count on to hopefully
of
like
course.
intervene in that case, so like it doesn't go. So that said, there's someone to rein him in, but it will be cool to see them try and work within those limitations. That I feel like something like that is. I feel like it's gonna happen when Peter goes off to encounter the lizard on his own towards the end of the trailer.
Mm.
I feel like that's the or at the very least it's the beginning of it, because I really feel like that what we see here is this first time using the suit, like the symbiote suit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like they might be a bit too soon for him to immediately lose control.
Oh yeah, no, it
But
should be a slow burn. Like he does
yeah.
something at first, and it's like, oh, that was a bit weird, but you know what?
Hmm.
I'll live with it. It could be worse. It's only genocide. Ah, it's fine, right? Yeah, yeah. Good for you, Spider. No, obviously not. Um, but so yeah, you've been looking at it. So what mission is this in the game? Is it mission 5, mission 10, mission?
Well, I'm not totally sure about that, but I will say I feel like it's going to be the equivalent of the back when Sony's last E3 presentation, when they showed oh, well, maybe not the last one, but the one before, when they were basically showing the Fisk construction sites mission with that led into the
Yes.
whole helicopter chase and everything. I get the feeling it might be the equivalent of that.
Is that
With
around halfway in the game, or no?
I'd say that's the end of Act One out of like three acts, because it like
Yeah,
leads
yeah,
right
a third,
into
yeah.
yeah, because then so because then it leads more into. That then leads right into Jefferson dying, and then that up until the rafts break out is like
Yeah,
Act
of
Two,
course.
I'd say, and then towards the
Yeah.
end.
The Ralph Breakout is yeah. That
Yeah,
that section is insane. I love it.
yeah,
But yes,
that's
so
amazing.
I mean, yeah, I made this point when I was like reacting to it in the stream, but like when we first saw that showcase of the construction site and whatnot, outside of people complaining about puddles, we thought that that was probably gonna be like the peak of the game in the respect for like it's not gonna get much better than that, right? What we're seeing is probably some of the best we're gonna get in the game, and
Mhm.
no, not at all. I'm not gonna say it's like the worst thing in the game, obviously not, but it's not peak. Like
Yeah.
there's like 20 other moments which are infinitely better. It's just like okay, cool. And I suspect, despite all like the hundreds of things that happen in this 10-minute gameplay section, I suspect this is not the peak, not even close. Um, because Insomniac are some kind of wizards, and they just understand how
They
to
are
make
gods among men.
anything.
I love them.
Yeah, they just get it. But not only do they get it whilst also making sure their workers don't do crunch, and I respect that so much. Thank you,
I cannot be
Insomniac.
understated. I cannot be overstated enough because Jesus said like
Yeah,
they're fantastic, bro. I love them so much.
yeah, because I
They're
mean,
so good.
Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. That was a big deal. 'Cause that game obviously, like that was one of the like first showcases of what the PS5 can do with the whole Rift mechanic, and it was kind of mind blowing, really, when you think about what it actually is, and it's still super cool to look at. And then, like, obviously, everyone was like, okay, this game obviously must have taken quite a while. And they're like, actually, no, it was only like 2 years. Like, oh, okay, so you did an extreme crunch. Like, no, we made sure there was no crunch to it. We were still doing 40-hour weeks. Like, what? Like, what do you mean? How did you make this game in 2 years and not crunch at all? Amazing. Like, just, I
Man.
love Insomniac. They're so good. They are such a dedicated, brilliant team. And this is just the next in a long line of masterpieces. And I mean, like,
Indeed.
obviously, they're not ready to showcase Wolverine yet. Um, and
Mhm.
I mean, it makes
I think
sense
that
that they
makes
didn't.
sense.
Makes sense they didn't show it at this event
Yeah.
because Spider-Man needed to take the main stage. Because
Not
that's the
yeah, not to
one.
mention we have no idea how far along it is, and I feel like that
Exactly.
they'll probably play it pretty close to the chest, especially in the event that maybe Spider-Man might have some tie-ins leading to Wolverine and can set up some of the hype for that, and so
Mm.
that could lead into promotion material for Wolverine in the future.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
maybe we'll have a couple missions of some mutants running around or something,
Yeah, maybe.
um, or something. Who knows? But we'll see. But like
Yeah.
I definitely think that we're gonna be waiting a tiny bit, but hopefully not for too much longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably like I reckon maybe early 2025 at the latest. But
Hmm.
next year seems like a good shout if depending on how far along they are. They might not be actually that far along at all, but I reckon they probably are.
Hmm.
Given the fact that they
They were
did
both.
release a teaser last year, it seems like they are somewhat far along. They're not
Mhm.
gonna just release a teaser 1 month into development or whatever. Um,
Hmm. They announced both these games at the same time, so both Spider-Man and Wolverine. So like,
yes.
and I believe at the time they did say that Wolverine was still earlier in development
Yeah,
than
of course.
and then Spider-Man. Though I could be wrong on that, but I believe that was the case. But given then how much time has passed since then, that's a decent amount of time, and again I think by the time that Spider-Man releases and everything, we can start maybe like expecting Insomniac to start showcasing the next title.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, back to Spider-Man. Um,
Yeah. All right.
so
Let's break this down.
the websuit. I just want to
Mm.
bring that up. The web glider. The websuit is
Ah,
literally
yeah.
sorry. Websuit is literally everyone, every suit. It's like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
you know.
Um,
Yeah, I
the
get.
web
Now I
glider.
do. Yeah.
That is
Mm.
awesome. That
Yeah.
that's oh yes.
The web wings haven't really done before this way, like that, especially not in games that I can recall. So it's really cool. Well, I guess bar potentially some of 20 Spider-Man 2099's gameplay in some of the games he's in. He might have it because that's also kind of his thing
Mm.
in comics, but I'm not totally sure. But yeah, nothing to this degree at all. So this is really cool to see, and it's a cool way of showing that they're going to spicing up the traversal a bit more. You also see Miles at the beginning of that section when he's en route to the Harlem Fish Market, uh, sort of do a sort of slingshot thing to get him a
Yeah,
really early
yeah, he
boost of
does.
momentum. Really awesome. So it makes me think about what other sort of things that they might have to spice traversal.
Well, yeah.
I remember one idea I had was like the idea of like the point launch mechanic in the original game, how you're able to like zip to a point and then boot and then like leap right off. It'd be cool if maybe, for instance, if they found a way to make it so that you could change the angle which you leap off of. So like if you
Mm.
go straight forward, it gives you more speed, whereas if you aim for higher up, it gives you more verticality at the cost of some momentum. Um,
The
Something
amount
like
of
that could be kind of
speed
cool.
at which you move, it feels like fast travel is not needed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's,
Like I was surprised by how fast he was like flying. Like when you see the counter going down for like the on the way to destination, it's insane.
yeah, I
It's
mean,
like
it's. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Ted Price, um, who in an interview mentioned that the only reason you move at the speed you do in the first and the game and
mm,
Miles's game is because of the limitations of the PS4. Um,
mm,
you go faster. The PS4 can't load things quick enough. It just
mm,
can't do it. Um,
which makes sense. Yeah,
and
but
the
that seems to no longer be
PS5,
the case.
however, with its Omega SSD and everything else, uh, yeah, not a problem. We'll just triple the speed that you went at, and you already went not slow. You could go pretty fast as it was, but no, that's pathetic. So, my word, it is
It's crazy.
astonishing.
Right off the heels of Insomniac's previous house, which is the part that are already showcasing how crazy powerful the potential of the PS5 is once
Yeah.
utilized properly. So like it's just another casual way of just being like, oh yeah, this is possible now. It's great. It's awesome, and you're gonna love it here.
Mm. I was worried that I think I mentioned this to you that, the other day, that the city was going to feel too similar
Mm,
because we've played through it in the first game, we played through it in Miles' game, and whilst there was like slight changes between the two games, and obviously there are different missions and that spices it up, it still felt similar because it's the same city, and
mm.
that problem is technically always going to arise, or is it? Because oh, all of that section, I couldn't remember what part of the city I was in because it's behind me now, and you know the section that followed was just not in the city at all. So
I
yeah.
was on Uber, I think, which is really cool. I might be wrong on that, but yeah, like it's really like already showing that we're getting new environments. We also see at the very beginning of the trailer, after the cinematic portion of Craven, when Peter's showcasing symbiotes for the first time, he's we're in Queens and
Yes.
we're at his old place. So we know Queens is going to be playable. At least it seems to be. To what extent? Not we're not told. I'm not totally sure yet. Sorry. But yeah, but we know Queen's gonna be playable, which is really awesome, and potentially maybe it'll be other areas in like different boroughs and stuff in the city that across some of these bridges that might also be playable too, which will be really cool to see. Which again would also solve that of being able to diversify locations as well as but while of course still keeping the heart of the city prevalent in the game, as well as potentially some like new inside like indoor sections. So like at the fishing market that we see where Miles is sneaking around, we
Mm.
have that. Um, it'd be cool if maybe that's because Peter's currently as is stated in the prequel comic right now. Peter is currently staying in his old childhood home that's May left behind. Currently trying to pay off the mortgage because May had apparently taken off a loan to keep the fee center running right before her passing. So it'd be cool if maybe if the house could maybe be some sort of hub for Peter because we
Mm.
didn't really get to have that in the original game, bar from the technically the lab,
Yeah.
just because Peter got evicted, so we didn't get to really see didn't really get to explore his digs or anything. But now that could change, so that's possible. We also know that at the stated from the prequel comic for that J. Jonah Jameson has bought the Daily Bugle again. And of course, MJ works at the Bugle, so potentially some indoor gameplay section of the Bugle could be on our way. Who
Do you
knows?
think, as Symbiote, he's gonna threaten Jameson?
It's gonna be interesting. Jameson, I feel like, is definitely going to be a lot more. I think because of the him buying the Daily Bugle is like the cliffhanger for the prequel comic as well. So I think it's safe to and given that MJ like works there and is also going to be involved with Peter and Miles as a sort of dynamic trio here, or quartet with Genki as well. It's clear to say that with due to her presence at least, and given that what's been how the comic was set up, JJ is probably gonna have definitely more presence in the story. Um, and it could be a chance, like it could be a chance. Maybe Peter does come into like cross paths with JJ. Maybe maybe it's the thing that finally gets him to look at Peter or Spider-Man in a new light compared to what he is right now, and maybe be more grateful to the more classic version of the web slinger. Maybe it'll be the
I
thing that
doubt
finally
it.
makes him be more two-dimensional. Who knows? We'll see. I really do like personally. I do prefer the three-dimensional J. Jonah Jameson
Yeah.
in most of his adaptations. So I would really like for him to do that.
Yeah, it'll be
But it's
interesting
also
for
very
sure.
possible that's not what they're going for here, and that's totally fine. But I do think he's going to be more involved, and conflict between and a confrontation between Peter and JJ in this state is going to would be very very interesting to see.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting. So we've got
hmm
obviously Venom. We got Craven.
hmm
We got the Lizards. It's pretty neat.
hmm
Uh,
If you look in the cinematic version with showcasing Craven,
mm,
we also see like when one of his guys suggests his new hunting grounds and shows a display of different people. It shows different people in New York City. It lists the following here so far. We have Black Cat, Prowler, someone called Wraith, who is which is the code name for Yuri Watanabe's vigilante personality in the
ah,
comics. And so it
excellent.
seems that it seems at this point she's adopted her fully adopted her persona as a vigilante crime fighter. And then it showcases Tombstone, both the Spider-Man, Lizard. It cycles on the raft inmates, landing on the Kingpin specifically at the end though, and Taskmaster.
Mm.
So he could be issuing challenges again. I hope the Assessor still comes in and also gives challenges for Miles. I think that'd be really fun. Or maybe it'll just be Taskmaster doing them again. Who knows? But also some of these people are across different like bridges in the in display, which could hint to maybe some of the other areas that may be playable within the game. So maybe it'd be that in itself is already a cool lineup of characters that could be involved with the story. Um, so yeah, it'll be cool to see what else they added. There were also the teases of the Green Goblin from the last game.
Yes, of course.
There's always a chance that that could come to a head towards the end, and of course there is the one who's really going to steal the show, Venom, in this, and the question of who is going to bond to the Venom symbiote. Um,
Mm.
I mean, the only mention of Eddie Brock in this universe was like a farewell card that was in one of the backpacks in the previous game. Of all the people at the Bugle wishing Peter farewell when he went into research. Eddie Brock was there, so
Oh, interesting.
potentially he's still working. Yeah, potentially he's still working at the Bugle as a photographer and/or reporter. There, who knows? Um, so that's a possibility. But the main thing that we have seen, the main thing that's most likely is Harry being
Yes.
um at least affiliated with the symbiotes. Who knows at the end if maybe he'll rebond with it again, but it's clear that the symbiote was made with him in mind, and he was
Well,
in
the
a vat
symbiote
containing the
obviously
symbiote.
gets out because it's attached to
Yeah.
Peter, so that's interesting. But it says like between the cinematic of Craven and then the symbiote Peter, 6 months later. Um,
hmm
but it's not necessarily clear what the gap is between Miles's game and this. Like
This is true.
that scene with Craven could be the same time as Miles's game, or it could be a year later or 2 years even. Who knows? Like we don't know the actual gap.
We know it
And
has to be after the point in which Yuri has made her debut appearance as Wraith, and that's about the only thing about going on. So it can't be
yes,
immediately after Miles,
no,
or at
no,
least not likely. But a certain amount of time certainly has passed, I would think.
yeah. So that's quite interesting.
Mhm.
We'll, I guess, soon see when the game comes out. Which actually, it is
Mhm.
soon. It's fall this year.
Yeah, it's wild. I can't wait for it. Oh, man, it's like they've been very quiet for it, but they've held fast. Whenever asked that it's still on track for fall, and now we can see just a glimpse of what they've got in store for us.
So I've
So.
I've got a genuine question for you. How
Mm.
busy do you think you'll be around that time? Because you don't have a PS5, and clearly I'm going to have to share play the entire game with you so you can play it. So
It's I that will be when the fall semester starts, so there's a good chance I will be quite busy.
I see.
So who knows? Hopefully I can make some time for it. I really have no idea what my schedule is going to look like around then, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to it though. Like, even if I don't get the chance to play it for a little while, I'm glad to see some really great Spidey stories out there because it just makes me happy. And
Yeah.
nice, it makes me happy to see other people like really like loving this version of the character too, because I really love it. But yeah.
So
Um,
what else have you got on your notes? Because I'm sure
so
there's a lot that you've jotted down, and I mean we haven't really talked about Miles's abilities.
yes, okay. So I'll first I'll do a quick note of the sort of gameplay things that I've seemed to notice so
Hmm.
far. So first comparing the like UI with Peter and everything post the when during the Queen section. We see in the top left that he's got the classic HP bar and focus bars up there. Focus seems to work the same way it did in the first game, not necessarily Miles' game, where as each you can use the focus bars to initiate a finisher as opposed to being tied to your combo count. Um, so that's from what I can gather so far, at least. So finishers seem to work much same in that regard. The bottom left seems to hold like shortcuts for special abilities. For Miles later on, we'll see that it's tied to his like Venom shock abilities. But for Peter, we see that he in this section at least, it's unclear if there's anything if maybe he has different sets before this point. But with the symbiote on, he's got all these symbiote attack shortcuts. So we see first off, he starts with uh, I believe in the left shortcut, in the bottom right, in the bottom left triangle. For the left shortcut is like his opening move. He shoots out a straight tendril at some of Hunter's instead of Craven's like Hunter guys ramming them into their vehicles. Then later on, the next ability we see is him like doing this sort of like symbiote tackle, like type thing where like he leaps into the air encasing all these tendrils and then just rams himself into this group of guys. And then later on, towards the end of the section, we see a sort of forward-facing group grab and ground slam attack with the tendrils, getting like four enemies in front of him at once, grabbing them in the air, lifting them in the air, and then sending them back down. And they all seem to be on a sort of cooldown system. The bottom right seems to hold gadgets. We don't see Peter use gadgets, but it seems that but we do see Miles use one of them later on. And we only see two different gadgets in the shortcuts, but they are both symbols are shared between Peter and Miles. So it's possible that they'll be sharing gadgets between the both of them.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, kind
when
of.
we
I guess sort of similar to Ratchet and Clank. Like Ratchet and Rivet are separated, but they have the exact same
mm,
gadgets and level, weapons and level, and the experience and bolts carry over between each other. Like they just magically have the exact same. So it's probably going to be similar,
fair.
just
Yeah, it
because it's
makes sense, but
easier.
it's efficient and it works well. And it's interesting. What's gonna be interesting though is like with the shortcut system they have here, they only have four things available. But maybe there'll be an option for the classic Insomniac like weapon wheel thing for the gadgets, where maybe there'll be more options, and you just have to pick and choose what you want on like your hotkeys. We'll see. Only time will tell, I suppose. For Miles section though, we see a very similar UI, except at the bottom left, of course, being instead of the symbiote attacks, it's his Venom shock abilities. Mainly only see him use two of these. One being like what is presumably his Venom dash, like in his original game, where he sort of like charges forward, coated in electricity, and rams into his enemies. And then later we seem to see a new one that's sort of like which I would like to call a Venom Blast. It's kind of like Sith like lightning shocks where he's just he shoots a ray of electricity at an oncoming opponent, and electricity seems to bounce between all the different enemies in the area too when the main person who got hit by it is flying away. So there's that. And we see Miles use a couple of gadgets. One of them is a really cool one that I think is gonna be really helpful for setting up different self potential, which is this he aims at a wall and fires this web line gadget that basically makes a new line for him to walk along, and which
Yeah,
wasn't there
that's
before,
really
so that
great.
helps. Yeah, so that's gonna be help with like, because in the original game and in Miles' game, like when you're trying to do perch takedowns, if you're on a location that already has people attached, like enemies attached to it, you can't like lay them over each other. So like you'd have to move to a different perch or something, and sometimes there's not another suitable one in the area.
Yeah,
But if this way, you can make your own perch setups,
yeah,
and
for sure.
therefore it's not as much of an issue. And then another one we get to see is like it's like a combination of some of my favorite gadgets, kind of like it's like a combination of the trip mine that we see in the first game, and with a similar detonation as the like proximity shock bombs that we see in Miles's game. I forget what they're called exactly, but it's basically a sort of or more like a combination of the trip mines and the web bomb, or basically he throws a bomb between three different people. It shoots at three web lines and pulls all of them together into one little in like one little grouping. And then Miles, of course, immediately goes in with his Venom Dash ability afterwards. But that's a really cool new gadget that we also didn't see before. That's more akin to combat as opposed to the other one being traversal. So that's really cool. As for what other gadgets there are, though, we only have the two at the moment. Maybe this is early enough in the game where they haven't introduced some more late game gadgets, or maybe just for the sake of this showing they just haven't done them yet. Only time will tell. But I'm looking forward to seeing what other gadgets they have on hand. That basically covers most of the battle mechanics and stuff. New traversal things like we've seen with the web wings and like the slingshot maneuver, really cool. As for what else, I feel like there's a lot of potential for a couple other things like for instance with my offhand idea of the point launch ability being able to angle that and stuff. Could be small other cool things like that. One thing I'm also really hoping for is one of the few things that was kind of clunky in the original game was sometimes the wall crawling would be a bit finicky. I'm really looking forward to. I really love for the wall running and wall crawling to be seamless with the web swinging and gliding. So I'm like feeling as if it's like the leap of faith scene in Into the Spider-Verse. Like
Yeah.
I would love for something that feels that smooth. So I hope we could see something like that. Um,
One of my favorite bits is in
oh,
the chase sequence. They just use their glider through like this little, I don't know,
oh yeah,
uh,
like this like train car,
cargo,
yeah,
yeah, train car cargo
yeah.
crate thing, and it's totally unnecessary. It's purely for flair. Like you could just go around it,
Uh, On
but
the
no,
contrary, is absolutely necessary.
yeah,
The style is being scored at the end. You see.
yeah,
Oh
that's
man,
it's just so good. Just it's so I love it. Yes, so
so good.
fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean
Oh, and I
it's
will say, sorry,
go you go.
just before I forget, I will say the one going back real quickly to Peter's simulated abilities. I feel like that they're taking and will continue to take a lot of inspiration from Spider-Man Web of Shadows and the Ultimate Spider-Man PS2 game in its Venom section specifically. Web of Shadows, of course, has this mechanic where basically you could switch between having the symbiote suit on or off, and with that you have different set of combat mechanics and everything. And whilst I don't think will necessarily have that aspect of it, I do think that maybe we'll see like the Web of Shadows is known for having like crazy oh, like just insane level of of combos and maneuverability with the symbiote attacks, even with the normal web slinging too. But like the combat in that game is just very just out, like the limits are crazy with it. And then very similarly, in Ultimate Spider-Man on the PS2, you actually have points where you can play both as Peter Parker and as Venom, like at different points in the story. And Venom, he like very much the way he shoots his tendrils out and stuff. Like for instance, his heavy attack in that game where he just whips around his tendrils and everything, very similar to like Peter's first shortcut there. So I would love if they continue taking inspiration from both of those because those have some really cool potential for some move inspirations. Um, and also of course just adding their own flair and seeing what else they can come up with because of course that whole uh Venom tendril covering him in a cocoon and then tackling the other guys afterwards. That was sick. I'd love to see more of that because that was awesome.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah.
just it looks amazing. It's
Mhm.
coming. It's been a good year for games. Obviously, Tears of the Kingdom, Resident Evil 4, Jedi Survivor. There's the free fighting trilogy of Tekken 8, Street Fighter 6, and Mortal Kombat 1. And now this. So,
Oh man, like
what
it is
wins
fantastic.
Game of the Year this year? Oh man, like
Yeah.
it's gonna be a very tough one to call, I think, because they're all worthy winners for different reasons.
Hmm.
So it's like Tears of the Kingdom being a
Yeah,
sequel
definitely.
to one of the best games of all time. Jedi Survivor being the best Star Wars game in 20 plus years, and obviously Star Wars is just popular as in and of itself. Resident Evil 4, a remake to one of the best games of all time. Um, fighting games are all going to be fantastic, and they have a very dedicated fan base for good reason because they are fantastic. And then we got Spider-Man, which is again the previous Spider-Man, fantastic game, one of the best of the PS4, and
Mm.
this one seems to be better in every single way. So yeah, like it's gonna be a very
Yeah.
tough one to call. I
I also want to say
yeah.
Yuri's performance in that whole trailer, phenomenal. Like
Mm,
really selling the aggro Spidey. Really great job. Like
yeah,
it just
for
gets me so
sure.
excited.
Yeah, and I
Oh
feel for
man.
him. It must hurt in the booth. Uh,
Oh yeah.
like
Oh, you bet.
that is a rough voice to put on because that is clearly not the kind of voice he's used to doing. I've not heard him do something that gruff. But it's not even gruff. It's the way he's performing it is like a strain.
Mm.
And that he probably has had training to like reduce the amount of I'm reluctant to say damage because you can actually damage your throat, but I'll just use the word
Mm.
pain. Like
Mm.
you can reduce, you can train yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm very very excited to see him be more aggressive with it. I guess as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm really looking forward to seeing just like the the visible evolution, like well, not visible but auditory, I guess, like evolution of his voice as Peter becomes more irritable and more uncooperative with people around him and everything. And I'm looking forward to seeing just uh I'm just looking forward to seeing that that aspect of the story showcased phenomenally through his phenomenal voice acting.
Mm.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah, no, it is for sure.
Mhm.
Full this year. What
Yeah.
date exactly? We do not know. But at some point. Didn't say winter. So
Mm.
we're probably looking at like September, October time, I guess.
Yeah, I would
Um,
assume so.
I'm guessing since they've specified fall, they're leaving it open to be maybe October, November, just in case they need more time. But they might, you never know, they might be really close and ready to go for like late September, but maybe not. We will see. But I'm sure we will find out probably around Gamescom time, which is August, mid-August. Maybe a little earlier, but Gamescom's a good shout, I'd say. Or around that sort of time. But yeah, is there anything else you want to bring up?
Just a couple of things. One thing, one that I really have to thank Insomniac for, bless you guys are awesome, is that in the prequel comic establishes that Peter's working towards a teacher certificate. So Peter's working towards being a teacher.
Oh, fantastic.
One, I love that profession for him. It's fantastic. Thank you so much. I would really hope that maybe we get to see, like maybe I wonder if that could lead to anything like him like a playable Midtown High section with him as a teacher, if he's already finished at that point. If not, maybe not, maybe still working towards it. But I would that just be really cool. Just I would like the idea of seeing him in that environment, similar to in Bane, how we got to really see him do what makes Peter Parker special in Otto's lab. I would love to see more of that in this way as well. And also, just main things in terms of story, in terms of where I think like at this point what the sort of things that are going on. I think so. In the chase scene across the river, Peter says that Harry is dying, and Connors was working on the cure before Kraven interrupted him, basically. So I think at this point, we also saw that at the end credit scene for Miles Morales, that Norman demanded that Kurt let Harry out once his vitals and everything seemed to be pretty steady. So I'm thinking, so we know Harry's currently still dying. I'm thinking that maybe Peter was like that after. That's sometime during the process while Connors was examining Harry after laying him out. Kraven happened to finally arrive in the area and probably forced Connors back into Lizard persona because he wants to engage in the hunt and all that. So Lizard making just perfect person to start off with. And then of course Peter, while Lizard's out of commission and Harry's dying, he was probably looking at Norman and Connor's current treatment for Harry being the synthetic symbiote, and accidentally bonded to it for the first time, potentially. And the feelings of Harry, like on his deathbed, Norm and the Lizard, Kurt now being Lizard and everything. This would be exacerbating the like his anger and aggression. So I think it's all flowing really well on that front. And it's cool, and Miles is also taking immediate note of it too, which I think is going to thankfully make it so that Miles is able to stop him before he crosses any crazy lines. But I do think that it's gonna be. I think it's also gonna provide a really interesting moment of them being at odds with each other, and also a chance for Miles to stand on his own and help Peter see that what's happening to him. Again, showing that he's come so far on his own journey of being Spider-Man, and helping to set Peter back on the right path, the same way that Peter helped him back in the original game.
What will be very exciting is at some point we will get a boss where we are playing as Miles fighting Peter, and maybe even the reverse as well.
I was thinking that too. It'd be really cool if it was like jumping between different perspectives throughout the fight. It'd be so cool.
Like there's even multiple endings.
That would be interesting. I don't know. I think I'd probably prefer for them to stick with the single outcome just to
Yeah,
keep
same.
everything more like tightly knit in terms of storytelling.
Yeah.
But admittedly, it would if they got ideas on how to run with it, it'd be pretty fun to see what they could do.
Mm.
But I do mainly like the idea of switching between the fight, like a different.
You brought up
So
Peter trying to be a teacher. I
mhm.
don't know how it works in the US, and I might be wrong on this, but I think in the UK, qualifications to become a teacher takes multiple years, like 3.
Mm.
It's a very long course because you have to go through a lot to
Mhm.
qualify for it. So if that is indeed the case, then it's, and say he had actually passed the board to be a teacher, it's at least 3 years since the Miles' game.
Mm.
Um,
It
but we shall see.
I'm uncertain of how long it takes specifically to get the certificate to become a teacher here in the States. Um,
It
but I
also,
mean
it
we
might be different from like the amount of years I stayed might be different because my mum became a teacher for kids with special needs, so she might have had to um, be on a longer course because it was quite specialist. I'm unsure, um, but
mhm,
that's just what I'm drawing from. And if it is true across the board, then yeah, that's it's quite a long time. Um,
mhm.
we shall see.
Apparently, if I'm going to Google search, teachers in training with the bachelor's in another subject needs about 1 to 2 years to qualify for a
Okay,
professional teaching license.
fair enough.
But like because think he'd be probably a science teacher, maybe be a
Yes.
bit less because it says here another subject. That's just a quick Google search up, so like could be
Hmm.
anything. But given we got the 6 month time gap, we know that. I know it's definitely been a bit of time since Miles, and I think there was like one offhand like call for Peter where like I think it was Miles actually gave him the idea of being a teacher. And so I think as they say that it has to take place after Miles Morales' game then.
Hmm.
So we could be it could be that he's still working towards it, or it could be that maybe he's just got the certificate. It depends on how much time has passed, but in the with the it depends how much time has passed with the prequel comic between Miles's game,
Hmm.
and then of course the time between the prequel comic and this game.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's possible mainly because the prequel comic it seems to be like a few months past seems to be more. It's not snowing or anything, so it's been a few months given in that respect. And I believe Miles is looking into majors for his upcoming school, so it looks like fall maybe might be coming up.
Hmm. Okay.
So it's potential that maybe he's finished by around that time, but
Right.
not totally sure yet.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to wait, a
Mm.
couple more months before we can play the game. But
Oh man,
it
they give
does
me enough
look
to feed off for a
amazing.
while though, so I'm
Yeah,
happy. But man,
it looks
it's gonna
phenomenal.
it's gonna be both an agonizing and fantastic wait about just letting my imagination run wild.
That is fair. Well, thank you very much. I very much appreciate you uh, lending your knowledge and your expertise.
Believe
Um,
me, the pleasure is all mine. I'll take any chance I can to gush about Spider-Man.
I respect that. It's no, it looks amazing. Like I loved the previous games, and I think this is only gonna be much better. But in
Mm.
the comments, let me know what you're most excited for, what you hope ends up happening in the game. It would be nice to see other theories down below. But yeah, I
Yeah, let's
guess
know your predictions and everything.
yeah, I guess we'll be back at
Mm.
some point when more news gets revealed
Mm.
and maybe you will be playing the game via SharePlay on my PS5. We'll see.
Perhaps, perhaps. Hey, I'm looking forward to whatever we got in store. It's gonna be a great time.